Alright, well, welcome back everybody. So I almost thought about not recording this, but then I remembered there's a lot of people that are on this channel because they love watching tractor videos. So today my plan is to mow this field. I've let it go for weeks and weeks and weeks, and actually the grass is starting to kind of dry out and die back for winter, but this is thick and nasty. I know it doesn't look that way on camera, but it's just really dried up, balled up, thick grass. A little too thick that I think I want to come out here and try to mow with my finish mower, which is what I typically do because it's so big and it knocks it out quick. So I've got the flail behind the tractor. I've actually got it set up really high so it's going to look like a bad rough cut, but what I'm going to try to do is come and knock the top off all of this and kind of get all these clumps and wiry mess balls chopped up, and then I'll come back in 2, 3, 4 weeks and probably mow this field for the last time this winter with my finish mower. So if you're wondering why I'm hauling butt today and why the cut doesn't look good, I'm doing that on purpose. I just want to get this knocked out and get it tamed, so to speak, and then we'll jump on it with the finish mower. It's just too thick. But while I'm out here, I've had a lot of people ask about the pine trees that I planted. Figured I'd show you those real quick. I've actually got a pretty big section here I just discovered that is missing pines. So this grass got really thick. We had a really hot last winter, hot early spring and summer, and the pine trees, a lot of them just didn't make it. So I'm looking at probably a 50-foot section here that does not have pines. That's a little bigger than I was expecting to see, but luckily I planted some pines in the back corner of the field in 2 or 3 different spots that I can transplant once it gets cold. But once you start walking down the rest of the field, it looks pretty good. So I don't know why that section is like it is, although I need to dig in the grass. See, there's still small pines just like this one that is alive and will eventually take off. There's a good one right there. But now that this grass is kind of dying back, the dog fennels are dying off for winter, it's easy to see. You couldn't see this earlier this summer when I was mowing, but you can see the majority of these sand pines I planted are doing really well. I mean, when I planted it, it was down here. First year, they always just kind of stay the same size. Second year, which we're getting into now, they'll start really rooting out and growing. And third year, they'll take off. And by next year, these things will be this big. And another couple years, I'll actually start getting some privacy here for that easement that was put in over here to give a neighbor access on the backside of the property. But looking all the way down the row on both sides here, I don't really see any missing. Looks like they're doing really well. And actually way down there, I see one that's quite a bit bigger than this. So that's kind of your update for the pines. Once we probably get closer to January, that's typically when I plant them, I'll dig some up. I've probably got 40 planted, and I'll come out here and start transplanting. That's just a time of year that they do really well. They're kind of dormant and they can handle the shock, and we'll get this looking good. But for now, enough yakking. Let's jump on the tractor and mow this field. is that way when I come driving this direction, I can kind of whip the tractor around and go back the other direction real quick and easy. I find it works pretty well to lob off each end like this. Tell you what, I do love the way that flail stripes the field. There's kind of a bad side of that. If you want it to stripe, you've got to keep going the exact opposite direction every time. You can't just go running circles around the field or it'll look off. But if you'll turn around and go back and forth, I love the way that looks. Looks like you take a lot of time and effort to make a field look good. Well, other than a few rain showers, man, this turned out to be a beautiful day. So I figured I'd take a minute, wrap this video up and answer a few questions. I get asked a lot, why do I not bale hay out of this field back here? And there's, I guess, a couple reasons why. One, everybody does hay around here. Hay is, I mean, it's cheap just because there's so much competition. So there's not as much money as you think in hay, at least not in my area. Again, just a lot of competition. You can buy big rounds of bales really cheap. So number two, there's not as much pasture there as it looks like. So to bring somebody out here, it's not worth their while to bring all those several different pieces of equipment, tractor, etc., just to bale this up really quickly. And they get a decent amount of bales off of it, but it's not worth somebody's time. And the flip side of that is, I don't just want anybody out here on our property, you know, so it'd have to be somebody that I knew personally that bales hay around here. I just don't know anybody that does offhand. And I guess a third side of that, why I don't do hay, people ask me, why don't I get equipment and bale hay? Well, there's two reasons for that. One, hay equipment is extremely expensive. I'd have $30,000 tied up in a little bit of hay equipment in no time, and that would be probably used hay equipment. A big round baler probably would be a bit much for my tractor anyways, although I do have just enough PTO horsepower for that. But again, to pay off that much equipment, I'll just never get enough hay off this field. And the biggest reason that I'm not concerned about hay back here at all is because I planted this pasture for animals. It's never meant to be a hay field. If we had no intentions of having animals, I would actually plant all this in pine trees because I love trees. I'd rather have the seclusion, and you get the tax write-offs and benefits of pine trees as well as the income down the road. But we have always intended to have animals out there. So the reason we don't have animals right now, again, we've picked up several hundred new subscribers recently since we got hit by a tornado in March. So a lot of our checkings and savings went toward building the new pole barn that you see in the background and replacing the one that got torn up in that storm. That was a big hit to our checkings and savings. I intended to have animals out there this year. I still have to do a few $1,000s in fencing plus the cost of the animals. So life has just set us back from that. I enjoy mowing. I love getting on the tractor, so it doesn't mean much to me to get out here and mow this every so often. I really enjoy it, plus I get to make the videos too, so it's kind of a win-win. I planted this pasture about 3 years ago, have worked really hard to get it where it's at. It used to be grown up, nasty, 10-foot tall dog fennels out here, trees. It took a lot of work to get it where it's at. Wish I had recorded that process because, again, it was just a lot of work. So I'm really happy with what I see back here. So in the meantime, I mow it for 2 reasons: to put seed back on the ground, keep establishing the pasture, and to keep weed competition down. And I'll continue to do that until we get animals out here. Now, with the announcement that we're about to start building a house and all the other projects that I'm going to have going on, this is probably going to have to take a back seat financially and just time-wise. I don't have time or the money right now to get out here and fence it all in and then go purchase a bunch of animals. But hopefully next year, as we're getting close to wrapping up the house, if the channel's doing good and life in general is doing good, yes, I plan on jumping out here, fencing it in, getting some cows. Tiffany wants a couple of horses, so that's why we built the barn the size that we have, to put a tack room and 2 stall horse stable in there. And eventually we're thinking about maybe some goats, a little chicken coop, things like that. Some of that may actually come before the house is done, like say chickens, for example. So the plan down the road as we develop this property and this channel, yes, animals will be back here grazing and doing the mowing for me. So I do not intend to mow this forever. So I thought I'd take time to answer that, because every time I do one of these mowing videos, that's the #1 question. Why are you wasting so much time and diesel out there? It's not as much diesel as you think, and it's a few hours of my time, but I love doing it. But I do it to take care of an investment, all the time and money I put in developing this pasture, and I'm doing it until we can get animals on it. And again, hay is just not worth it around here. So that's the explanation for those questions. I'm sure I'll continue to get asked those as we pick up new subscribers, but just kind of want to let y'all know that because it's an extremely common question on the channel. So by the time you're watching this, chances are I'm already working on the storm shelter. These videos are always 1 to 2 days behind, just due to editing and upload time. So now that I've got the place somewhat cleaned up, there's still a million projects I could do, but I'm the type that when all this stuff's in the back of my mind, I can't go focus on a big project like the storm shelter. But I'm at a point now to where I'm okay with stopping projects. The grass is getting somewhat dormant since it's fall now. I only have to mow 1, maybe 2 more times. So I can put a little focus in now to some of these projects. Just a little FYI to fill y'all in, since y'all been so involved in our life here lately. I've been working with multiple engineers right now, an architect, the building inspector, etc. on the house. So we're trying to finalize a pole barn type house. So I've got to make some modifications to our house plans. I've got to find an engineer that's okay with stamping a pole barn for Florida's wind load. So it's not as easy as building a common house. So I am working through those things right now. It's a headache, it's a hassle, it's requiring a pile of my time, but I knew that was coming. As soon as I can get that behind me and get these house plans stamped, I can start breaking ground. So that's still gonna be a little bit before we jump on the house. But again, storm shelter is gonna be the next big project here. After that, we'll do firewood, quite a few other things around the property. I'm not just gonna focus on 2 main projects. So that's enough talking and yakking. We're still considering doing a live stream here coming up. Tiffany and I was trying to figure that out, make sure I got a camera that's compatible so we can start answering questions like this that y'all have. But in the meantime, I'll just keep plugging them in on videos like this. So stay tuned. A lot of exciting things coming, and I never really asked for it, but I may plug it every now and then. It means a lot to us if you'll like the channel and hit the little subscription button down beside it, along with the little bell icon beside it. That'll let you know anytime I post a video. and share these videos. That's what really helps YouTube's algorithm plug us and make the channel grow and give us exposure in front of other people. So thank y'all so much for viewing. Just the views alone, yes, that helps the channel, but the liking, the subscribing, the commenting, that really helps the channel as well and gets us the exposure that we need to continue to try to do this full time. So we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks again for the support.